Hey everybody, we're live, and I'm pleased as punch to have back my friend Mindy Pechenuk and hi Gerald in the background, and and Mindy. Hey, first of all, how you doing?
I'm doing great, and it's great here to be with you, Zenny. I
Right,
always enjoy it.
blessed to have you. Hey, tell us, give us an update on what's happening on the campaign trail out there for you, running for mayor of
Well,
Oakland.
I'm actually finding it very exciting because I'm intersecting, the whole population, all the different ethnic groups, all the different religions, and finding that there's a common bond, an amazing bond to actually want to have somebody in leadership that actually cares about people first and actually is not going to put the people before the speculators, that actually wants to develop Oakland as an industrial manufacturing city again. We can make it vibrant, we can get our small businesses going, and we can stop crime. This is not rocket science, but it is a question of intention. And I find people are so happy that somebody's running like myself, who's not been part of the decades of the corruption of Oakland. And by the way, and that includes Barbara Lee. Okay, she's part of the corruption that has existed. As I have to say, she's been in Congress 26 years, and look at the shape of Oakland. What has she done in 26 years that's actually made the city a better place, or prevented uh, hotels like the Waterfront, right, from being shut down? Nothing. So I'm finding people they're excited to have somebody running who actually has a completely different view. And I'll say something I know, which is going to be a little bit uh, controversial. Let me put it that way. They're actually happy to see somebody that wants to bring President Trump and his help into Oakland and actually help rebuild the city with the federal help. And I say this not as a Republican, because to me, it's not about Republican versus Democrat. It's not Democrat versus Republican. It's about the principles of the US Constitution that founded this great country, and about what Oakland used to be as a great center for our children to actually grow and develop to their precious minds, to make, to learn, to study scientific discoveries, to be able to contribute to our society or become a great ball player, like the late Ricky, who unfortunately passed.
Ricky Henderson.
Yeah, Ricky Henderson, exactly. You know, and so I'm finding on the trail, it's people are looking for this. I'm actually really, really, honestly, am very taken away and impressed by what I'm finding in the population.
Now, let's talk about this beautiful construct behind me,
Right.
the Waterfront Hotel. Uh, I go back to, well, when the Waterfront Hotel was open, actually even before that one was proposed, because Jack London Square was a mess.
Mm-hmm.
Only Scott's was down there, which has always been a great place to go to for seafood. Uh, hey, folks, if you go there, have a strip cocktail, please. Oh, it's really good.
Oh,
To this day, decades. Uh, but the waterfront is the crown jewel. Uh, Missing a ferry landing, which is long talked about, but never put there. It was one down the way,
right.
um, and now it's closing this Friday. This Friday, and the Port of Oakland. Thank you, Robert Bernardo, Director of Communications of the Port, was kind enough to send me this email an hour ago. Hello, Zenny. Thank you for reaching out. I also received your voicemail. Basically, on January 31st, the Waterfront Hotel owner Jack London Square Associates, JLLC, notified the Port of Oakland that it was abandoning its long term ground lease with the port that same day, which immediately terminated the lease. Jack London Square Associates' notice did not provide a reason for its departure. But, I think after so many decades of economic development experience, media, interviews, calculations, formulas, plans, and policy and law, I think I know why. Not to mention working with, and I wanted one of the fun events I had at Jack London, which I'll get to in a second. But no one was staying in Jack London because of the overall impression that, hey, you go to Oakland, something's going to happen to you bad.
Right.
And so they basically said, Uncle. Now, in my day, we had an Oakland Business Development Corporation. We had an active redevelopment agency. We used tax increment financing, where most of the flatlands are project areas. We would make sure that the hotel ownership was put in the place of a temporary organization. The city would work a financial deal to keep it open, involving the owner, until the owner could find a new brand to work with, and the city would provide a subsidy to the business reflective of its importance in the community to go forward. Now, what do I hear? Crickets.
Right.
Nothing. Okay? What are we doing wrong?
Well, if you're asking me that question, I'll tell you what we're doing wrong. We're not doing exactly what you just said. There's no relation. It's almost like they want to let everything go.
Yeah.
Let it go bankrupt. Throw it out. Toss it out. As opposed to doing exactly what you just said, which I remember when I first came to Oakland, Jack London Square, I was excited to go down there. It was a place with a lot of activity, a lot you can do. I used to take my dog just to walk along the park there and everything. And like you said, now it's turned inside out. Now, how does something go from something that became totally productive and healthy and fun for the community, a place for the families, tourists, right, to a disaster area? Well, there's only one thing in my book. It was intentionally done by people running the city. And, the Port of Oakland should have, and maybe I'm overstepping my bounds, but the Port of Oakland should have intervened. They're spending millions of dollars right now to make it carbon free, Well, excuse me, there's better ways we can do this. And letting something like the waterfront, a place of community, go to hell. They should have stepped in. They should have had a transition period. There should have been some kind of financial arrangement, which could have been worked out. Look, financial arrangements are just a matter of people's will or intention. Dollar bills don't get up and make a decision themselves. And so I think that's why I'm running for Oakland mayor, to tell you the truth. To me, it's such a disaster. I mean, I'm not a native Oaklander. I'm a native New Yorker. And having lived here in the last 9-10 years, what I've seen happen to the city is why I'm running. I mean, at 73 years old, which is how old I am, this is not a career for me, okay?
Sure.
Yeah. But I can't stand to see what has happened to this city. And knowing that it's intentionally been done, and knowing what we could bring with industry, manufacturing, opening up all of the port again. I want to see this port expand. We had a great Army base. We let that go too. And now we're letting the waterfront go.
Well, I think I just have to say, just because if I don't add this, someone's going to correct me in the comments, but the Army base closure was forced by the realignment. It's called the Base Closure Realignment Program of the late 90s, specifically 1994.
Right.
I was on the Base Closure Realignment Committee for Alameda, thanks to the now having retired Alameda County Supervisor Keith Carson and his then Chief of Staff Dexter Roberson. And so the idea there was, well, look, the Cold War was over, as you know and remember, and there was no need for a lot of the bases. This is the judgment of President Clinton and those in charge at the time. And so the idea was to basically turn these bases over to the community as economic development gifts. Mm-hmm. That would be the idea. So it wasn't so much that, and to close that circle.
Sure.
One of the main, there have been a number of main projects that have been completed down there. The Prologis facility, and although the one that most people are most aware of is what's called the Oakland Bulk and Oversized Terminal, which isn't a coal terminal, but it's designed to be a commodities terminal, but it got held up by politics because the city of Oakland versus Phil Tagami. At any rate, that's what happened there. Just to fill in that, you know.
No, I appreciate that to
Sure.
fill that out because it's there's so much more we can do. Go ahead, Zenny.
Oh no, I thought you were gonna say something.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, because I've just started looking into the Army base, which I was, to be honest, I wasn't that familiar with.
Sure.
I'm trying to get myself into learning more of what I need to know,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
and I was watching a video this morning on it where once, when it was active, and I can understand, okay, we're no longer in the Cold War, and how do we develop it into, and it needs to really be developed. But at one point they were actually educating and making sure a lot of people got their QEDs that were in the military there,
Mm-hmm.
and educating people who got jobs. And,
Mm-hmm.
So it just seems to me that we have so much to develop in this city that has just been left to the side. Like you even said, there was a commodities terminal, and what have we done with it?
Oh no, if I may,
Yeah, go ahead.
the commodities terminal was never built. To make a long story short, the dream of a commodity terminal was the product of a number of Oakland leaders, including a mentor of mine who's since passed away, Richard Winnie, who was Alameda County Council, who I missed.
Mhm.
Anyway, um, the idea of this bulk terminal percolated up to where by 1991, at a 500-person gathering called Oakland Sharing the Vision, it was the number one economic development priority. So when the Base Closure Realignment Committee action came about,
Right.
there were proposals to put a studio there by the Wayans, which actually isn't a bad idea, but it had one problem. The federal government said any land use you put there has to meet the objective of providing the same low skill but well paying jobs that the Army base had.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And so, and because of the legal holdups, we have by and large, we're on our way to meeting that objective, but many years later, we still haven't done that.
Right.
That's where we're at. And it's
Well,
been harder since Jerry Brown killed redevelopment in 2011.
there you go. No, but this is important history you're developing, and I don't think most people know it, what you just went through. At least because it just, again, goes to the question, I think, of where we can go with the potential, which is that how do we now move that forward? There's so many areas we could redevelop in Oakland, including most of East Oakland needs redevelopment. Or like now, what's going to happen to the Waterfront Hotel behind you? Is somebody going to come in and buy it out? Are they going to tear it down? Is it just going to be a rotten structure that sits there and collapses? And what I see is the basic problem in all of this is that we've had, you have development ideas. I know from our discussions we've had, you have had real ideas how to develop, but you didn't have a leadership, whether it's city council or mayors, that actually took one whole look and said, okay, let's have a vision for Oakland, a whole vision for the whole of Oakland. And
well, actually, it's funny you say that because prior to the year 2000, we did. That was the beauty of Oakland Sharing the Vision at the Marriott Hotel and the Convention Center. 500 people got together. That's how I met Phil Tagami, because
okay,
the late, great Oakland Convention and Visitor, excuse me, the late and great Oakland Citizens Committee for Urban Renewal Executive Director David Glover, who introduced me to Vietnamese coffee. I didn't know it was such a thing.
that's good.
Said to Phil and myself, said, because I happened to be sitting there, and he actually brought Phil over, and he goes, "You two brothers need to meet each other."
Mm-hmm.
And Phil was this young real estate agent who was into becoming known for adaptive reuse.
Mm-hmm.
And Phil was working for a guy named Randy Berger, who owed him $18,694. Phil worked his tail off. That's Phil has always been known for one thing, working his tail off, and well, the other is that he went to Skyline same year that Libby Schaff, my great friend for many decades, went. on other people. So we're all, family, right? And but my point is that Oakland sharing the vision allowed us all to get together. And what we did was, in those days, there was a kind of managerial tool called brainstorming. And under
Mhm.
brainstorming, you put everything up on the wall and without criticism of what's put up there. And then you determine whether it's going to allow you to meet the goals and objectives you set out ahead of time, right? And that's what we did. We spent the whole Saturday doing that, and it was a heck of a lot of fun. We divided into different groups, tables all over the place,
Right. We need that again.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Especially in the internet. This was before the internet. Okay, in the internet age where people want to connect, I think it would be more successful. In fact, I know it would be. And then we put online for those who can't make it for reasons of disability or what have you.
Mhm.
But my whole point is, and have them participate too, right? And my point is that that out of that, we got an economic development document that's still available online. I believe actually I have a copy of it at oaklandnewsonline.com. And what I'll do is I'll put up the link for those interested
Oh, do.
to see it,
Yeah.
right? So you can see what was written. And it actually provided a guide for the city of Oakland departments. And so what happened was that over time, the city departments were so afraid, and this is before social media became even born, but America Online was just becoming a thing, which is kind of a social media. At any rate, now I'm cognizant I want to hear more of you and less of me, but my whole point is you asked. So,
Yeah, yeah.
um, but 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 the idea was by department heads would say we better park in what we're doing here to make sure we're following the guidelines. And even if some people claim that they were sort of cheating by kind of gaming it and saying, hey, look, we came up with this or whatever, the point is that the document set the tone for economic development for the next 20 years after that. It really did. And we need that now.
Oh, absolutely. You know what I'm glad you went through this because that's kind of my vision is that we need to pull together, like, whether it's 500 people, 600, 400, we need to sit down, not on Zoom, sit down in a room over a few days, one day, so you have a day of brainstorming, then you have time to think about it, come back at it the next day and have a plan like that and that's what I mean about an open door policy, where then we can actually present it to the population and give them hope that we're no longer just going to do this. Let's throw money in at, some little project here and give 3 people a lollipop to make them feel better. Right.
Absolutely.
We
Right.
have to tear up all the old plans. As I just said in another interview I did, we need to get an outside audit going. We need to revisit every department. You have to reevaluate. And we can't do this by trying to patch together like what's currently going on right now. I mean, I'm personally appalled that they would cut some of the budget from Meals on Wheels.
Mm.
How many that's just happened last week in the budget in the city
Mm-hmm.
council.
Mm-hmm.
How many senior, disabled, needy people? And you're going to say they're expendable because we have to pay a debt service? Excuse me, you don't do that. Or the fact they want to close 4 more fire stations? Did we not learn anything from what just happened in the Oakland Hills in 1991, or the horrible fires down in Southern California recently? I mean, that's what I mean by people first. That's the principle of our US Constitution, the preamble, the general welfare, and the pursuit of happiness. And it's not the pursuit of happiness to, just go crazy and scream in the street because it makes you feel good. The pursuit of happiness has a principle in God. It has a principle in how God created us in his image, with a creative mind to make discoveries, to build, and generations to become better. I grew up in the old era when your grandmother would turn around to you and say, you have to leave this world a better place than when you found it, when you came into it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And that is what my grandmother told me when I was 8 years old. And that's the reason I think I got political. You know, I couldn't stand the human suffering anymore because a handful of people were making decisions that were against what it is to have a real sovereign nation state and real people. So it's just, and Oakland has been, I think, a project for a long time of these financial globalist British financial interests, Wall Street interests, to do a test case of how can you destroy a city so much. I mean, I grew up in New York, and I just want to say one thing about growing up in New York. I was born in 1951, so grew up in the 50s and 60s through Kennedy as president. I was in 7th grade when Kennedy was assassinated.
Yes, ma'am.
And I remember there was a tremendous change in policy once Kennedy was assassinated.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw this, you know, even in this, and I still remember this. This is when I was in 7th grade.
Mm-hmm.
We're sitting there in school, and the teacher says to us in hygiene class, "What would you do if you found your friends with marijuana? Would you tell the police? Would you tell their parents? Would you tell your parents? Would you do nothing?" And you know what all of us in the classroom did? We looked around at each other and we said to the teacher, "What's marijuana? We don't know what that is." And we didn't. But they were bringing in the concept. There's nothing normal about cannabis and marijuana and fentanyl flooding our streets.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And also in New York City, when I was, you know, I lived through the Big Mac, when New York was put through it was turned over to the bankers because the political leadership didn't want to do anything. And what did they do? They stripped the services of the poorest sections in the South Bronx. You know, the garbage, the sanitation, the fire departments, all to put the bankers first, not the people. So I'm not going to let that happen to Oakland. And that takes a tough leader who's going to make some tough decisions and not go along with the standard pragmatic way of accounting in this situation. That's why your vision, I love it, Zenny, of bringing people together in a room and saying, okay, we have many different parts of Oakland. We have East Oakland. We have to transform that whole area into a great manufacturing, industrial, productive base. We have to work with other parts of California maybe to do it. Maybe we have to work with Sacramento or Stockton. And how do we make our port even greater than it is to do more commerce than it's doing? Imagine how many people we could employ. I've been told we do a lot of export.
Yep.
But how about more export than we do? Why put a limit on what we can do? Why we have to look at, you know, I've talked to a lot of firemen and policemen. And the fact that this city council could shut down the they say temporary, I don't like that word, the police academy, the 2 police academies we have. So we're not training new young policemen. Mm-hmm. We're not hiring more policemen. It's not, you know, you're working your policemen that you have, the handful on every shift. You know, you're the over.
Oh, ignore that, sir. Go ahead.
You have to get that? Oh,
No.
Okay. You know, we need to change.
I'm going to kill that. Sorry.
City ordinances that are tying the hands of our police. People don't realize it. The reason they can't come to you when you need help is not because they don't want to be there. These city ordinances have restricted their ability to go after the criminals, to go after the gangs. And that's why I want to work with President Trump to go after the offshore drug cartels and human trafficking that works with our central bankers and the offshore markets, because so we turn the spigot off so we can clean up our cities. Do you realize Oakland has over 50 illegal cannabis warehouses?
Legal.
Actually. Illegal. No, they're illegal ones.
Well, I'm saying legal because you have to remember we have dispensaries that are legal.
I'm not talking about the dispensaries.
Okay, yeah, right. I mean, I'm only shining a light on.
Right. We have the dispensaries, which.
Right. I'm only shining a light on the fact that in California law, it makes the situation complicated. Mm-hmm. And so basically, you know, our problems are unfortunately and sadly they boiled. If you had to ask me, you didn't ask me. Sorry, you didn't ask me, so I won't say anything. But
go ahead.
But there are they are more complicated than Washington politics.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And no, I'll just go ahead and say it.
Say it. Say it.
Okay. The problem basically is that when the pandemic hit, and there's a tendency among like others
Unknown
to
caller.
basically hold on a second.
Sure.
Basically act as if the cat that it doesn't exist. But the pandemic, when the pandemic hit, there was a need to close businesses and firms for understandable reasons. COVID, it was a virus. I'm not even getting into how it got cured or anything. The
Right.
fact was, no one can deny but that it was here and it was killing people. Um, I said that the best way to handle it, first of all, was that we were going to have to give businesses and people and institutions, airports and so on, uh, blocks of money to remain open if we're going to close these bricks and mortar structures and say, hey, look, you can't go in them or change how they operate. Because what that would result in is what I calculated to be a $9.4 trillion loss in economic performance.
Mm-hmm.
So, because that's what it would have taken in terms of expenditure to make up the difference between what we had in 2019 and what we're going to see by the end of 2020. We could do part of that in a very much smaller scale in Oakland using tax increment financing. Instead, the mayor, and that was Libby, decided to have a panel task force to come up with a plan. So she's going to spend 4 to 6 months sitting there while these businesses are closed. And what happens is when we have a leasehold that has no one in it and it's not maintaining it, there's no one to make sure that parts are being repaired or replaced, which are wearing. Make sure that if someone tries to break in, they don't because there's a presence there. All of the advantages of having an open structure are gone when you abandon it and you're not paying people to at least maintain it to a degree or even have it open as a business. And I said, hey, look, let's get air cleaners, put them in these facilities, restaurants and such, so that people can go in. You're cleaning out the COVID. They're wearing their masks. That gives some, uh, ability to go in and out. Libby didn't do that. And so what we had at first, we had a nice place of nirvana where everybody was at home. People were able to save their transportation money because stimulus money was coming in. You had a nice little savings rate, actually, a big rate savings rate.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then once that's petered out, and that savings rate actually caused an uptick in the gross domestic product for the entire country. But once that petered out in the Oakland parlance, what happened was that we had people who were no longer able to get their stimulus, and then crime went up. And it went up to historic levels in Oakland. It didn't come down. It got worse, and it began to damage our business infrastructure.
Right.
And the city did nothing about it because what the once great ability to address conditions of blight, which is what redevelopment law was all about, was taken away by California Governor Jerry Brown in 2011. But this replacement, marked by SB 628 BL, which is signed into law September 21st of 2014 to September 29th of 2014, was not used by the city of Oakland, a city once known for its great redevelopment agency programs, which created the Oakland City Center, which created much of downtown as we know it today, and kept Oakland propped up at a time when institutional investor racism was hammering Oakland, skipping over Oakland, going to Walnut Creek and every other area. I know this because I did a study on African Americans in San Francisco, hired by the head of the Human Rights Commission in San Francisco, Ed Lee, the same Ed Lee that later became mayor of San Francisco. And there was one place where the flow of people moving, because people tend to move to the next county in the Bay Area, right? That's historically been the trend.
Yeah.
Except from San Francisco to Alameda. They would skip over Alameda and go to Contra Costa. Why? They were skipping over Oakland, the most populous city in Alameda County. It was crazy. And so Jerry Brown helped stop that because he was a celebrity mayor, celebrity
Right.
white mayor. Let's face it. But Jerry didn't like redevelopment spending for affordable housing, and so he used it while he was mayor. But when he went to become governor, he killed it under the idea that we're going to save $1 billion and get the California deficit down. In reality, it was found that he didn't have to do that. Okay.
Mhm.
And it hurt Oakland. And it's hurt Oakland to this day. Why? Because a basic tenet of redevelopment was there to fix blight. So we're allowing blight to develop before us. We have a whole set of people working for Oakland. I have no idea how to get rid of blight, let alone recognize it when it's happening in our face. With all these empty storefronts, that's blight. Okay.
Mhm.
That's blight. We were trained to deal with that like that.
Mhm.
We don't have anybody working in the city who does that, knows how to recognize it, and it's happening all around. It's happening at
Yeah.
the fastest rate I've ever seen in my life associated with Oakland, and it's sick. Okay? It's sick. And that needs to be our laser focus, is coming back home to what we used to do to get rid of blight, because the blight is happening around us.
Right.
Okay? We got to stop this stuff.
No, I agree 100%. And I saw the blight you're talking about, Zenny. I saw it the other day. I was going through Little Saigon,
Mm-hmm.
part of Oakland,
Mm-hmm.
and you see store after store after store empty, and the few stores that aren't empty are locked, and you have to knock to get in.
Right. That's blight.
That's blight.
That's blight.
That's blight. And I see it, you go to downtown Oakland, you see it. You go almost anywhere, East Oakland. And there's no, like you said, there's no reason for it except the people who run the city have another agenda. Sorry, they have another agenda.
No, they just don't know. It's not, if I sorry to interrupt you, but everybody thinks, who's on the outside of government that, it's just some sort of sinister plot. They don't know. They don't know how to do the legislation. I knew. I worked for government. I was his economic advisor. I knew better than anybody else.
Mhm.
We knew how to fix that problem. But when Jerry killed redevelopment, what happened was the death of a set of institutional memory that knew how to deal with blight. That's what's going on. They don't. Your statement assumes they know what to do. They don't.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm just being blunt with you. They don't.
Mhm.
That's the problem.
Well, that is a problem. It's actually, in a certain sense, even a bigger problem in a certain way.
Yes, ma'am.
Because, when are we going to stop? That's my question, right? Not to you per se. I'm saying in general.
Yes, ma'am.
When are we going to stop electing people who don't know what to do? Or when are we going to stop electing people who may not quite know what to do, but are not open to figuring out what to do? And then I do think there are some people, who do have some not good intentions. Let's put it that way. I think we're dealing with all three kind of, qualities. And this is our chance. This election, to me, I think the special election, we shouldn't throw it away. We now see what Chang Tao and her buddies, and they're not the only ones who did the pay to play with the Duangs and everybody. I'm sure there's other people doing other pay to plays too, which we're going to stop. This is not a way to run a city. It's not, if you're in it for your own back pocket, you shouldn't be a political leader. Sorry, that I don't accept that as a norm.
I agree.
And so that's what makes this election so important. This is why I'm running. This is why I would ask people to go with me. I don't have as much money as Barbara Lee. I maybe don't even have yet as much notoriety, but I'm hoping to change that. And thank you for doing the interview, Zenny.
Sure, absolutely.
Or Lauren Taylor, but when are we going to go with competence? When are we going to go with somebody that is willing, that knows something? And I know certain things, but I know what I don't know, but I also know how to work with people because my objective is not me. My objective is to see a next generation being able to grow up that's in the image of God, that knows how to be human and develop future generations after them. Let's develop fusion power. Let's, develop a space. Let's develop new physical principles. That's how we got here. Otherwise we'd be still rubbing two sticks together, or still using kerosene. There's a reason we need new energy development. We need new breakthroughs in science. We need new breakthroughs in plumbing. It doesn't matter. It all is part of the whole, It's why we're not still using outhouses in 2025. And unfortunately today in Oakland, we forced a lot of people out in the streets, and there are using the streets for outhouses, and that has to come to an end. And I think this special election has got to be the time where we make a decision, Oakland, not to go by an ideology, not to go by a label, even sometimes maybe not going with somebody you like who's a nice man or woman, But how do we go with the leaders? How do you, the citizens of Oakland, you have an opportunity now to create a new, complete leadership. I think Zenny should be part of that leadership with some of what he's going through and should be brought into the discussion process. I mean, we have to look to, a leader that can put together a new government. And I hate to be Johnny One Note, but maybe Mindy One Note, but which is
Mindy sounds better.
yeah, Mindy One Note, and which puts the population and the development of people first, and is going to take a hard line and negotiate with the bankers that we have that are not going to just play over. And thank God we have now a president that does care about the people. I know some people listening may not agree with me on that, but I hope to have the conversation with people about it. And what you get with me is what you see. I'm very straightforward in how I think, because I think that's what we need. I don't mind people disagreeing with me. Disagreement is a healthy thing in our society.
I agree.
Yeah, we can discuss it out, because I believe there is a truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe there's a truth in how this, universe was created, how we're created within the universe. And, I love my dog. He's tremendous. He's 13 years old. He's a great dog, but he can't do what I can do. He can make me happy, but he can't do what I can do, And that's what's gotten lost in the society generally over the last 30, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years. I say since the death of Kennedy, since the death of Bobby, since the death of Malcolm, and the death of King. This is, what's gotten lost. And I think we're at a tremendous moment now. You see Bobby Kennedy coming back in, Tulsi coming back in. There's a working relationship that's beyond party. And that's what, to me, and I ask people listening to put our children first. Our children don't, we all can remember when we were a child, and the playfulness of children, whether it's playing with blocks or learning something and discovering something, to what we've done to our children today, to give them sex changes at 2 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old, 10 years old. Our children don't deserve this. They deserve to discover the mind that God gave them, and their contribution to future generations. Now, I may sound old-fashioned. That's good. I want to. Because I think we have to bring back a standard and a morality, which is not about, all your likes and dislikes. That's what our founding fathers founded our great country on. That's what our Constitution is about. A more perfect union. We're never perfect. We're always going to try to become more perfect, more in tune, more development. So I know I've said a lot, but I'm appealing to the voters, to the citizens of Oakland, to the Oaklanders. Let us come together. Let us unite in this election and make such a difference that your children are going to look back at you, your grandchildren, or your neighbor's children, if you don't have children, and say, this was a great moment in Oakland's history, and we're beginning a new path. So I just wanted to convey that to everybody listening, Zenny.
Sure. I want to ask you, because you mentioned Malcolm X, and Martin Luther King, and then you talked about President Trump,
Mm-hmm.
and this is Black History Month, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I would like your opinion on something I'm about to read.
Okay.
Um, with my question actually to you is, once I post this, is what does Black history mean to you? But before I do that, let me post something I received from the president. Um, and it goes like this. Today, this is Black History Month by President Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Today, I'm very honored to recognize February 2025 as National Black History Month. Every year, National Black History Month is an occasion to celebrate the contributions of so many Black American patriots who have indelibly shaped our nation's history. Through our history, Black Americans have been among our country's most consequential leaders, shaping the cultural and political destiny of our nation in profound ways. American heroes such as Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, Thomas Sowell, Justice Clarence Thomas, and countless others represent what is best in America and our citizens. Their achievements, which have monumentarily advanced this tradition of equality under the law in our great country, continue to serve as an inspiration for all Americans. We'll also never forget the achievement of American greats like Tiger Woods, who's, by the way, I'm adding this, his mother died today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
yeah, who have pushed the boundaries of excellence in their respective fields, paving the way for others to follow. The National Black History Month, as America prepares to enter a historic golden age, I want to extend my tremendous gratitude to Black Americans for all they've done to bring us to this moment and for the many contributions they will make as we advance into a future of limitless possibility under my administration. Now, therefore, I, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Constitution and the laws of the United States, do hereby proclaim February 2025 as National Black History Month. I call upon public officials, educators, librarians, and all the people of the United States to observe this month with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. In witness thereof, I have here to set my hand this 31st day of January in the year of our Lord 2025 and of the independence of the United States of America, the 249th. So, what does Black History Month mean to you?
Well, it has a very personal meaning to me. And I go back two things growing up in New York. And to me, I always grew up as a child believing that all men and women are created equal. That was very sacred to me as a little child, even. Maybe partially because I was raised Jewish,
Mm-hmm.
but I grew up in a Catholic and Protestant neighborhood. I was the only Jewish kid in my class until sixth grade rather, and then there were two of us.
Wow.
Yeah. So to me, nothing could separate us because as children, we're all equal. It doesn't matter the color of your skin, the religion, it's all equal. And in fact, when I was in third grade, they had started busing into the school in Brooklyn I went to, public school. And my partner in school was a young Black kid. When we go on field trips, I had to hold his hand. And my mother was questioned by the PTA. Why are you letting your daughter hold the Black boy's hand? She said, we're all equal. There's no difference to me. And they threw my mother out of the PTA.
What?
Yep.
Oh.
Because she would not. And, and I've experienced it when I was in first grade. I was given a Jewish star for my 5th birthday by my family, and I proudly wore it to school. And my first grade teacher, this is a true story, pulled me up in front of the classroom since I was the only Jewish kid and pulled my star off my neck and told me I couldn't wear it to school. And as a young kid, I just remember saying to her, well, all the Catholic kids wear their crosses, but it taught me a good lesson, a very important lesson in life. I actually appreciated the experience, believe it or not, because it taught me that some people have a problem, like my first grade teacher, who nobody liked anyway. She was really mean. But, but that's not all people. So
Right.
I never grew up not liking somebody from that standpoint. There was a greater love, you know, as later in life when I, you know, learned much more, you know, but so to me, Black History Month is very important because we all come together, and there were great figures in our history, as President Trump just went through. As you know, I know personally, look at the great musician Dvorak, who came to the United States in the 1800s and learned from Burley the Negro spirituals, right? And wrote it into the New World Symphony that he composed for America. So, and I was trained as a classical musician, just so you know, Zenny. That's my background.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so, you know, you look at these great people. I've read a lot about Tubman, Harriet Tubman, and the fight she made to free, you know, the slaves, and going through, and the singing of the gospels, not the spirituals at the time, you know. And so it's a major part of our heritage of our country. And so it's a great honor. And Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, you know, played a very important role in our country. Were that, you know, and so I think it's a great honor. I'm very happy that President Trump did put out that statement for all to hear and all to see and all to recognize. And so to me, we're all I've always been created equal, and that I've always carried with me, you know, my whole life. And thank God we had the contributions that we've had, because we're all God's children.
So as we close, closing thoughts. What are your next steps in the campaign? When are we gonna start debating, getting debates and stuff? You know?
I was hoping you'd ask that question, Zenny.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was hoping you sponsor a debate, okay? Because
Sure.
we need somebody to sponsor a debate. I want a debate. I've talked to Lauren Taylor about it. He wants a debate. We need to get Barbara Lee in a debate. You know, we need some on. Now, I know there's some forums coming up. I just got noticed that Alan Church is having a forum on March 8th. The League of Women Voters is having one on March 15th. So there will be forums, and I'm hoping for many of them, because it does give a great opportunity. There are 10 of us running, just so everybody knows. Unfortunately, it's ranked choice voting, which I hope to God someday we get rid of this ranked choice voting. I also hope, and I'll put the city officials of the Registrar of Voters on notice, they better put all 10 candidates on the screen touch machine, all on one page.
Aha. Yeah. Great point.
And not did what they did to Salika Thomas and to
Right.
Kathina Mattori in the last election, where
Right.
they put them on a different page. So I'm putting the ROV right on notice as we speak. They better not make that mistake again.
You hear that, Tim Dupuy, Alameda Registrar of Voters? Listen
You got
to
it right.
Yeah.
Yep. And people should call up the ROV and tell them that they want the touch screens, all 10 candidates, and they all should call up about the other thing, is all 10 candidates should be ranked choice. Right now, you can only vote for 5 of the 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's bad. Yeah, it's a weird.
And our city charter says we have the right to have 10 of 10. So we should have 10 of 10, and we should all be on the same page, and fair is fair in an election. So to your question of the debate, I am looking forward to one. And if you could sponsor one, it'd be great. If not, if you know somebody we can contact to sponsor one, we need somebody to sponsor not just a forum, but an actual live debate. A couple of them would be fantastic.
Got it. Well said, Wendy. Hey, tell them your website.
Okay, my website is electmindy.com. That's elect, ELECTMINDY, Mindy, electmindy.com. Go there. I update it with my new press releases and items as they come up. And feel free to contribute to help me get out there, to be more vocal. And if you have anybody listening, if you want me to come speak to any of your groups, I'm available. If you want me to come speak to your community, I'm available. I want the dialogue. I want the discussion. Thank you, Zenny.
Awesome. Folks, stick around. And also, for those of you who are paying attention to the NFL, this is Super Bowl week.
Oh, yeah.
And, well, Mindy, who's going to win the Super Bowl?
You got me.
Okay.
That's one question you stumped me on.
Aha. Folks, regardless of what you do, I want to make sure that you absolutely come to, or remember to come to our newest, one of our newest sites, NFL News by Zenny62.com. That's NFL News by Zenny62.com. It's the only site of its kind that aggregates YouTube videos that are focused on Super Bowl 59. There are a
Okay.
lot of YouTube videos focused on Super Bowl 59, folks. A lot of them. And so many you'll say, well, gee, I don't know how to put them all together. I don't know if I go to YouTube, how do I get to them? Guess what? They are auto aggregated for you in the only news aggregator of its kind ever developed for Super Bowl 59, right here. There it is, folks.
Great. I'm going to have to stop watching that to learn.
Yeah, NFL News by Zenny62.com. You can look at the 7-hour fall NFL owners meeting live stream that I did from the fall meeting in Atlanta. Kendrick Lamar is performing, and the Grammy winner. There's the latest video, this one on predictions and bets. And Zenny62 Media will add more of its content. Zenny62 Media is officially credentialed, once again, to, to cover the 59th Super Bowl week. And so, there we even have other news like right here, this interview. Yeah, right here, Mindy, there you are.
There you are. Thank you.
Yeah, right. That's right. All you have to do is click it and scroll down and click on it. You won't be able to hear it because of the way I have the setting. Well, let me change the audio real quick so that you can get an idea for how our system works. It may be a little bit, let's see here. Let me go to audio and then turn off cancellation for a moment and then go down here and then, click on that. Cancellation for a moment and then go down here and then, click. And so what happens, I stop it because we're gonna get a doubling. But there you are, Wendy, right?
Thanks.
Yeah, there you are. And so you can check it out and everything else. Remember, NFL News by Zenny62.com. All right. Hey, Mindy, stick around in the background. You have to go anywhere. Everybody, remember, please subscribe to the YouTube channel with the new name. That's right. The Vlog Report with Zenny62. That's it. The Vlog Report with Zenny62. And the full name is The Vlog Report with Zenny62, Oakland, Las Vegas, NFL. That's the new name. And I already did a video explaining why that happened. I'm not going to waste Mindy's time.
Nice.
Folks, that ends this stream. Mindy, stick around.
Okay.